Good morning, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. My name is Beck Anderson. I am the specialty courts coordinator for the Family Treatment Court with Greene County Juvenile Office. And
My name's Beth Murray. I'm the clinical coordinator for Family Treatment Court. So I supervise our peer recovery specialists, and I ensure that the clinical needs of all of our participants are met.
so today what we want to do is just kind of walk you through the fundamentals of what Family Treatment Court is. We'll call it FTC. So when you hear that, we have a lot of acronyms. I think that's the only one I'm going to use today. We have to Google all of ours anyway, so don't feel. So Family Treatment Court, what we do is we work with children of the families of children who have come into care because of substance use. And so today I kind of want to talk to you about the process. And by the end of it, I hope you have kind of an understanding of what we do. Hopefully we'll have questions at the end. So if you have questions, I'll gladly take them at the end. Our objectives are, well, what is FTC? I kind of just explained it. There's a difference. There's a track. The track for FTC is specific. We have a team that's devoted to just those families that are in FTC. So our sole focus is on them. They get all of our attention. They get all of our resources. So it's very intensive. Why we do it? Evidence shows that FTC works. We are completely evidence-based. The treatment is supported by scientific evidence. It's peer-reviewed, and there's documented effectiveness. Greene County, we have a really high rate of substance use, and a lot of our referrals, actually a large number of our referrals come in, have substance use as a removal factor. I think the last data, the national percentages of kids that are in care are at 39% that had to do with substance use. Missouri is closer to 50, and Greene County is a little bit higher than that. We'll have more data in January, but that was just the last data that I had. So there is clearly a need, and we want to make sure we meet that need. So that's what Family Treatment Court does. Family Treatment Court is, we want to provide a timely support for re-enduring reunification, meaning we want kids to go home and stay home. So it's a longer process a little bit than regular abuse neglect track cases, but we are trauma informed, and we use that to guide us as to how services are delivered and how it can be applied to each family. We don't just process the cases, we enact personal plans that will build the foundation for the family to make the decisions that they need to in the future and to keep their families together. Kind of the boring stuff, our court protocols. We do have a dedicated docket. It's every Wednesday. We staff our cases at 10 o'clock, and then we meet with our families at 1, and that's the point at which judge will meet with them, talk to them about how their week went, ask them, he always likes to start on a positive, so he asks them what went well, because we know when we talk about things that go well, it kind of sets the tone. And our participants love court. It sounds strange. They absolutely love court. They will not do anything else and they will come to court. And so that kind of just speaks to how safe they feel with us, and the team and the judge, which is huge. We don't just process the cases. We actually work with the families and get to know them on a weekly basis and through email, usually a daily basis. So treatment court is bound by confidentiality. That's not just for legal reasons. We're kind of in a weird position between the legal side and medical. So we're bound not only by federal regulations, but also by HIPAA. So, but that to me is not the point of it. The point of it is to create a safe place, because we know that when we talk to somebody about their struggles, they want to feel like that information is just between us. It's not going to be used against them later. People outside the courthouse aren't going to find out. That's really the only way we can be sure that we're getting honest and transparent feedback from the participants, because we can't help them if we don't know what the problem is. So confidentiality is important, and we really, really adhere to that. Like I said, not just for legal reasons, just for our people.
There's also a lot of stigma attached, obviously, to substance use disorder, so that confidentiality piece helps with that.
Yes, I mean, shame is the biggest thing that we deal with, and it's really nice to watch the families when they come in and they realize, "Hey, I can say anything in here and you're not gonna judge me. You're gonna tell me I can tell you what the problem is, and all you're gonna say is, 'Okay, how can we help you fix it?'" So it's a really nice environment to work in. But, as far as who is eligible, we are geared towards the high risk, high need. Beth does the screenings to assess that. She is our clinical piece. So she, in my opinion, has the hardest job because she sits with these people for a little bit and kind of delves into why we're here, why they're there. Um, our people do have to have an open abuse neglect case. So the child does have to be in care. Court does have to take jurisdiction. Um, and at that point, it triggers if there's a if there's a substance use, it triggers us to get involved and see if they're appropriate. Um, sorry, a parent has to be willing. That's the biggest thing. When FTC started about 20 years ago, it was mandatory. The judge just ordered the participant into it. You're going to do this, and that's part of the. We've learned since then that we have a much better outcome when people are willing to do the program. So there's a pretty intensive process. They get to come and observe. And at that point, we talk to them and let them know that, hey, you're not going to not get your kid back if you're not an FTC, but you're going to have to do the same things to get your child back. So we have all of the resources, more resources to help you do that. So it's more of a conversation, and then they get to decide whether they actually want to come in. Now, once you're in, you're in. So you can't really say, yes, I'll do it, and then no, I won't. Once you're in, you're in. So that's why we go through the process of giving them time to decide. Having said that, FTC is not a fit for everyone. We do have criteria that would exclude, just basically if there's safety concerns, if there's really difficult, intense, severe child abuse, if there's issues that would put the other participants at risk. And also, FTC is very intensive and we don't want to set someone up for failure. So if it makes more sense that they can work the abuse neglect track side, we'll let them do that because ultimately we're all here for the same reason, and that's to get families back together if it's safe and appropriate. Um, I talked a little bit about the referral process. All of our referrals come from Children's Division. They come into the juvenile office. We have a team that decides um, whether it's legally sufficient. Once a petition's been filed, jurisdiction has happened. Um, during that time frame, we will get a referral from the juvenile officer who's holding the case. We get that referral if any part of the removal reason is substance use. At that time, Beth will screen that referral and see if it's appropriate to set up an interview, and she can go into a little bit of that process. But it takes a while. Like once we decide that we think the person is appropriate, the hard part is getting in touch with them because you have to remember they're in active addiction. So they probably don't answer their phone or don't have a phone, don't have a house, don't have a car, don't have basic needs met. So that's probably one of the hardest parts is getting in touch with these people and then getting them to trust us because we're standing there with the Greene County and we are the ones that took their kids. So they're not going to trust us. So we are already up against some difficult odds just trying to earn their trust. That's the hardest part, I think. Even once they come into treatment court, that's still the hardest part. It takes a while. And eventually, usually, they will realize that, hey, we really all are here for the same purpose. We don't get any more money doing treatment court. We don't get any more money taking your kids. That's not what we do. I have a job where I really, really wish that I didn't have a job. And I don't think many people can say that, but that would be the ideal situation is I'm out of work because the need's not there. Um, if we don't get that person in within 30 days, we'll go ahead and decline that referral, but we still give them an extra 60 days. So if we can find them in that 60 days and they're willing to come back and sit with us, they still have that time frame. We can't go much beyond that because we are held to time standards. We don't want kids to linger in care. Like that's well, we know that's awful for the kids. They need permanency, and we don't want to come in 6 months into the case because we have a short time frame to work with them at that point. We already have a short time. We're dealing with a lifetime of addiction, and we're trying to handle it in 12 to 15, 18 months, and that's pretty difficult to do.
And it also improves, studies show that outcomes are improved when we get them in within 90 days.
Yeah, so the sooner the better. Um, and it's a work in progress, right? It's a work in progress. Beth spends a lot of time making phone calls, jumping when somebody actually comes in because they don't adhere to the policies. Those just show up sometimes, and she meets them where they're at. That's the biggest part of this program is you have to meet the person where they're at. So I think Beth does a good job. Our whole team does a good job with that. Um, what makes FTC different? We have a dedicated team, right? And by dedicated team, we have a judge that not only hears the underlying abuse neglect cases, he will hear the FTC cases. Um, we have a juvenile officer who carries only FTC cases. We have a dedicated treatment team. Usually that's Burl. We do work with PFH. Um, we have peers. Um, and Beth will get into this, but the peers are the difference in this. We could not do what we do without the peers. Um, they are crucial in just getting the people comfortable and giving the person someone in front of them who can really say, "I know what you're going through." I can say it all I want, but I don't. I haven't been there. Um, so having them there is we couldn't do it. Our program would not be successful without it. Um, having a dedicated team, we also have a different funding source. So we have grants that we work with through Burl, SAMHSA, um, which gives us more resources to treatment, to housing, um, just things that are difficult in and of themselves to acquire. But with the people that we work with, we have a little bit more of a um, pool to pull from. Um, so our participants, what's required of them? We do ask a lot. So FTC is intensive, and that's why we have the process of sitting down with them. Um, we will see you every week. A normal abuse neglect case, they will see the judge every 3 months. So we go from 3 months to weekly, and that's comes with good and bad. Judge will see everything that you do, all the positives, but I'll also see when you mess up or when you're not engaging. So we tell them that. Um, we expect them to do 3 things out of like, this is we want them to call and test, we want them to go to treatment, and we want them to attend their parenting time and have quality parenting time. Um, and if you judge like to say, if you do those 3 things and you consistently do those 3 things, your case will move forward. So, those are the things we expect. And with those things comes the transparency, comes the engagement, and ultimately comes the reunification. So we don't see people who don't do those things not reunify. If they don't, it's typically something that's outside of their control. So that's why that's why we are very honest and we do let them observe so they can see what's expected. Because it's intimidating to sit in a room full of people and have a team in front of you and then have the judge looking at you. Because no one has a good experience with a judge, right? Everybody has this preconceived notion that he's just going to yell at you and he's going to judge you. That's not Hosmer. Hosmer is really good. We are very lucky to have him. Um, so we do have the designated team members. We do have the judge. We have myself, Beth. Um, we have a designated guardian ad litem, and that is really nice because he knows the kids. We sometimes get caught up in treating the substance use and forget that there's a family, right? Or family treatment court. So Chris is there to make sure that the kids' needs are represented because once we do get the substance use under control, we have the issues, the underlying issues as to why they were using, which is usually also what brings the kids into care. So it's really nice to work with the same people every day. We get to know each other. We know our strengths. We know what we can offer our participants, and it just makes the process much easier. And so with this, I'll let Beth talk about the peer because the peers are just the core of our group.
Yeah, the peers are the kind of the heart of family treatment court, and that's also what sets us apart. So kind of what Beck already talked about, the certified peer recovery specialists, they get a certification through the Missouri Credentialing Board. So they go through a special training and a background check and all that jazz before they're an actual certified peer recovery specialist. They have a code of ethics that they adhere to, and they are people in recovery. So they have lived experience with a substance use disorder. Many of them also have experience with their children being taken into care. Also, and so their job is just to kind of guide our participants through the recovery process. We help them understand that in order to achieve reunification, um, finding their recovery it's got to come first, because if they don't have their recovery, they're not going to have a job, they're not going to have their basic needs met. So that's the primary role of the certified peer recovery specialist, and our court really treats them like the experts. They're in touch with our participants every single day. They're taking them to 12-step meetings, smart recovery, celebrate recovery. They're getting them in touch with a community, and kind of facilitating that sense of belonging, which is a lot of the times people with substance use disorder kind of just feel isolated. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt. And so the peer recovery specialists sort of model the recovery process and what that looks like. They also help get our participants in touch with resources within the community, housing issues, food issues. We want to make sure that their basic needs are met, because it's really hard to focus on anything else if you don't have a house and you don't have food, and you don't have sleep. So we try to get that taken care of first and foremost. Our peer recovery specialists also spend a lot of time trying to empower our participants to find their own voice. There's a lot of feelings when you're a person in recovery. There's a lot of feelings of inadequacy. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to have a voice. Nobody's going to trust me. And so our peers are there literally showing them, like, I work for the government now. I have a county position. There are, like, recovery is possible. You don't have to live your life like this. And I do want to remind everyone that it does take an average person with substance use disorder 7 to 10 treatment episodes before they are actually finding recovery. So it is 100% normal for someone to come into our court, graduate, do everything that they're supposed to do, graduate successfully, and then have a relapse. That is part of the diagnostic criteria for substance use disorder. And so it doesn't mean that they're a failure. It actually means that that's 100% normal. So we also our peers try to instill that, like, just normalize and validate, like, feelings of wanting to use is normal. If we have a relapse, the most important thing is to come back, be honest about it, and let's get to a meeting, let's go to treatment, let's do what we need to do to get back on track. I think that pretty much covers the peers. And Beck, I will do the next couple of slides.
Sure.
Too. So our court has a phase structure that we adhere to, that our participants adhere to. It's based on 5 phases. They start in the welcome phase, and then as they progress and are achieving their treatment goals and achieving their parenting milestones, then they progress into phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. In 4, they come up with a graduation project that they complete themselves and present at graduation, which is also awesome because we're really instilling that voice and choice within the participant. And in order for our participants to phase up, that's what we call it, progressing from one phase to another is a phase up. They present applications to the court. And so they're talking to us about what they're learning in their recovery, what's been helpful, what's not been helpful, and what their goals are for the next phase and for their future. Judge, they present that phase up application in court, and then judge will say, like, does anybody have any objections to this? And most of the time we're all on board with it, because again, we see them all the time, so we know exactly how they're doing usually. We abide by contingency management, so incentives and responses to behavior. So it's pretty normal for someone with substance use disorder to be dishonest. And so when they come into our court, they have to relearn that behavior. So if we're seeing, if it's normal for them to kind of minimize their behavior, maybe lie about a thing or two, and they come in and they're honest with us from the jump, like, I can't do this on my own, I need help, I really need to go to this group, then we want to incentivize that behavior. We want to say, yes, this is what we want to see, you're doing it right. This is important. Be vulnerable, be honest, be courageous. And so we have so many incentives. We do shout outs in court. We stand up and clap. We do pictures with the judge. We have a thing called Hosmer's Corner. And we get donations kind of from communities, community places like Fleet Feet. They donate some shoes. And the participants get Hosmer dollars for doing a favorable behavior. I hate to say that, but doing something right, doing something different that they wouldn't normally do. And so treatment has Hosmer bucks. We have Hosmer bucks. Everybody's giving them Hosmer bucks. Like if they're doing things that we want to see, we're handing them out like candy. And then on the flip side of that, we have what we call responses, consequences, but they're not punitive because that studies show that that doesn't work. So we are wanting to like instill intrinsic motivation within them to change. So we'll do things like assign them a paper, or like we had a participant that just really couldn't stop drinking while they were pregnant. So we had them write a paper about the harmful effects of alcohol on a fetus. We have them go to 7 meetings in 7 days, whether that be Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, whatever it is. So those are some responses that we might have for behavior that we maybe don't want to see. Other incentives we have Goal Bowl every week. That's probably the most popular. So if they are achieving their parenting time, they're going to the required amount of treatment, and they are calling and testing doing a urine test when they're asked to test, and they do all of those things and meet their requirements for the week, they're entered into Goal Bowl, and then judge draws from that once a month. And they can get like a certificate or something like that. And then for every entry into Goal Bowl, or every time they meet Goal Bowl through the week, they're entered into a fish bowl drawing as well, and that just has like affirmations, or they can go first at court or something like that. So and our participants really get into the incentives. They you can tell that that's what works in treatment court, is when you really incentivize and you're like just giving them verbal praise for positive behavior.
And also, just to add to that, we never put people in jail, and we never ever tie parenting time to. We don't take that away. That used to happen. Like if you didn't do what you needed to do, again, your parenting time this week. That doesn't happen anymore, and so happy for that.
Unless there's a safety issue.
Yes, safety of the child always trumps absolutely everything. So even confidentiality, if something needs to be reported, we're all mandated reporters. So, but in short, FTC kind of exists. The regular side is just to adjudicate cases and move cases through. It's not always equipped to deal with addiction. So FTC exists to bridge that gap. And we are trying to break cycles. We're not just returning kids home, we're making sure that that home is safe and appropriate, and that when relapses happen, the parent is equipped to know who to call, to reach out to, and how to move forward from that. So that is FTC in a nutshell. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I do, actually.
Sure, sure, go ahead.
You had mentioned that that people who do want to participate.
Mhm.
What would be some reasons why someone would choose not to participate and choose to do a more traditional track?
That's a good question. The question is, what would cause a person, what would be a reason that a person doesn't want to choose FTC? And I probably let Beth handle that, since she's the one that has that conversation with them.
So denial of a person with substance use disorders disease is a huge factor. So a lot of the times they're like, I actually don't have a problem with, I can stop anytime I want. I can stop using drugs. I can stop drinking anytime I want. I don't need this program. So that would be the most popular reason that we see. And then a lot of the times people are like, this is too intense. I can't come to court every week. I have to have a job. I have to provide for my kid. So I would say that those are the two most popular reasons that I hear from people why they don't want to participate in FTC.
Yeah, I mean,
couple motivations, obviously, to be reunited with your children and get healthy. Is one of the motivations, does this participation, successful participation, um, have bearing on an outcome of a court case and how punitive it is or what their sentence is?
Yeah, so that's also a good question. Does FTC, the outcome, have a bearing on outcomes of other cases? I'm assuming you may be talking about criminal side. So we do have prosecutors reach out. We do have defense attorneys reach out, and just probation officers. We do work with the probation officers. So yeah, we have seen it on the criminal side. They do come to court and say, "Hey, I'm actively involved in family treatment court and I am compliant." So, in as much as whatever that means in their court, it does have that kind of impact. Yeah, it is. It does act as yes. So
And we will write letters for those participants to say like they've been involved for X amount of time and they are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Here's what they've achieved since being in our court.
So you mentioned that relapse is common. So if they go through your program and then relapse, can they go through your program again?
also a good question. If they come through our program and graduate and then relapse, can they come through our program again? One of the things I like about FTC is that we have the ability to look at each case individually. So short answer, yes, they can. Sometimes that doesn't make the most sense. Sometimes if the children come back into care, the person knows what they need to do, and it'll be faster for them to go through the abuse neglect side, and hopefully they have those services and access to those services already. So we do have participants who have gone through 1, 2, 3 times, so it's not necessarily an absolute no, but it's also not an absolute yes, but the option's there. So any other questions? Yes.
On a normal Wednesday, how many participants will the court see?
On a Wednesday, how many do we see? It just depends on what phase they're in. So we see the welcome and one phases every Wednesday. Then the 2s, 3s, and 4s. The 2s and 3s are opposite Wednesdays, and then the 4s come once a month. So it's kind of you're doing well. You don't. Just depends on the amount of people we have. We've been seeing 20 at a time. So this week we are going to see 20, and that may not sound like a lot, but when you are having a conversation with somebody about their life, it's really difficult to limit it to 2 minutes, right? So, yes.
So the funding for this, is it primarily through Greene County funds? And then do you have like staff member or something that looks for grants or applies for grants? Or how does that break down on the funding for something like this, if you know?
So we have 2 grants that we operate from. There's one through the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and then we have a SAMHSA grant where we have partnered with Murney. And so part of the funds come from those 2 grants. I'm grant staff, so I'm funded by a grant, and 2 of our peers are funded by a grant, and then our parent resource coordinator is funded by a grant. Beck and our deputy juvenile officer are the only 2 staff members that are not.
Wow, so just 2 staff members are funded by.
Yes. Yeah. So as you can imagine, this is a very scary time for our program. So, yes.
You mentioned working with Children's Division. Do they handle placement of children who are waiting on unification?
Yeah. The question was, does Children's Division handle placement? Yes. So on that side of it, everything looks the same. We work with caseworkers. There are caseworkers that are dedicated to FTC, but their job is no different. The difference is everybody that we work with has a better knowledge and understanding of addiction. So
we have like monthly trainings that are specifically designed, for providing education to our team on substance use disorder. So the guardian ad litem, the caseworkers, CASA, everybody that's involved in the FTC team they're specially trained for substance use disorder and best practice in substance use disorder.
Anything else? All right. Oh, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.